The galaxy was old. Empires had risen and fallen across the stars, their stories etched in fading starlight and forgotten ruins. The Galactic Council had long declared the known territories secure and civilized. At the outer edge of their grand maps lay a line drawn in quiet warning. Beyond it was a sector marked in bold red symbols, ancient and simple. Human space, entry forbidden. For 300 years, that warning was respected, not because the Council feared the humans, but because of the stories. Every species had its myths, but those surrounding humanity were whispered even in military academies and war halls. The stories spoke of a race born in fire, shaped by struggle and driven by something none could name. They had ended wars no one else could, invented weapons no one dared imagine, and vanished after declaring peace on their own terms. Time dulled the memories. Generations passed. To the young commanders of the Council fleet, humanity became little more than a legend, primitive beings who had isolated themselves out of arrogance. The line on the map looked less like a warning and more like an invitation. The one who finally crossed it was Admiral Varkle, a proud commander of the Varn Dominion. His empire had conquered 50 systems in the last decade. His fleets were vast and disciplined, powered by the arrogance of a species that had never known true defeat. He looked at the border of human space and saw opportunity. He saw resources unclaimed, worlds untouched, and technology to plunder. He dismissed the ancient tales as superstition told by weaker minds. On the day his fleet crossed the line, sensors filled with static. His navigators struggled to adjust. The starlight itself seemed dimmer. Communications flickered as though space itself resisted the intrusion. Still, Varkle ordered them forward. "Mark the coordinates," he commanded. "We'll show the Council that human space belongs to the Dominion now." His words echoed across his bridge. Officers obeyed, but many avoided his gaze. Something in the dark beyond their screens felt alive, watching. The first sign came 3 hours later. A patrol ship vanished from formation. Then another. No distress call, no debris, nothing. They simply disappeared. Scanners showed nothing but silence. Varkle demanded reports, but every system read normal. It was as if space had swallowed them whole. Days passed. The fleet pressed deeper. They found planets, lush, green, and eerily quiet. Cities stood in perfect condition, untouched by time. Roads were smooth, towers gleamed, but there was no life. Not even dust. The humans were nowhere to be seen. "This is abandoned," Varkle said with satisfaction. "We'll take everything." Teams landed. They entered the silent cities, collected data, and gathered artifacts. But when they returned, something was different. Their eyes were hollow, their speech slow. They claimed to have seen no danger, yet their hearts beat faster, their hands trembled. Some muttered about shadows in the mirrors, faces watching from glass. One by one, those who entered human structures stopped sleeping. Then they stopped speaking altogether. Varkle ordered the destruction of the cities to erase the unease. Orbital bombardments lit the skies, fire washing across the abandoned streets. The fleet cheered as the cities fell. For a brief moment it felt like victory. Then came the voice. It was not transmitted by radio or signal. It came through every ship's system, calm and steady, speaking in perfect galactic standard. "You have trespassed." Crew members froze. Every monitor displayed the same image, a rotating symbol, a circle with a single line through it. No one recognized it, but the oldest scholars on the fleet later whispered it was the emblem once used by the United Terran Defense Authority, a name spoken only in legends. Varkle demanded to know who sent the message, but no reply came. Instead, one of his battleships exploded without warning. The blast was silent, its wreckage drifting in perfect spheres as if the explosion had been carved by precision itself. "Identify the attacker," he roared. Scanners showed nothing. No ships, no signatures, no trace of weapons fire. Then another ship vanished. Not destroyed, gone, as though space itself folded around it. Panic spread. Officers shouted. Systems flickered. A faint signal emerged on the long-range scanners, one vessel approaching fast. It was small, single crew-sized by the readings. It didn't match any known configuration. The humans had returned. The ship appeared not through warp or jump, but simply was. One moment space was empty, the next it existed. Its hull shimmered like liquid metal. No weapons were visible, yet every system in the Dominion fleet went offline for 3 full seconds the moment it arrived. Varkle stood frozen as the small craft drifted forward. His tactical officer whispered that the ship emitted no heat, no energy signature, no sound. It was invisible to every detection method except the naked eye. The human voice returned. "We warned the stars. The line is there for a reason." Farkle tried to respond, but his words were lost in static. He watched as the small ship moved between his battleships, silent and unhurried. Where it passed, engines died, lights dimmed, and hulls cracked open like eggshells. Ships decades old, built from the hardest alloys known, fell apart as though they were toys. In less than 10 minutes, half the Dominion fleet was gone. Not burned, not broken, just gone. Farkle finally gave the order to retreat. The surviving ships turned toward the border, engines burning bright, but the stars themselves seemed wrong. The coordinates twisted. They were lost in a maze of shifting readings. Then the human ship appeared before them again. "You wanted to see what lies beyond the map," the voice said. "Now you have." A single pulse of light flared from the ship. Not a weapon, not an explosion, just light. Every Dominion ship froze. Power cut out. Gravity failed. The fleets drifted, helpless. When power returned minutes later, they were no longer in human space. They were at the edge of their own capital world, their ships torn and empty. Only one message remained on every system. The line is not a border. It is mercy. The Dominion tried to cover up the disaster. They claimed it was a malfunction, a failed expedition. But rumors spread. Wreckage found near their home system carried impossible damage patterns, surfaces molecularly smooth as if cut by thought itself. Survivors from the fleet, few as they were, spoke of dreams filled with human voices whispering words they couldn't understand. Many went mad. The Galactic Council convened an emergency session. For the first time in centuries, the line on the map was discussed openly. Ancient data files were recovered. Fragments of transmissions from the last known contact with humanity. They spoke of something called the Event of Silence. It described how humanity withdrew from the galaxy after a war that spanned half its stars, not because they were defeated, but because they had won too completely. They had built machines that thought faster than time, weapons that bent the laws of nature, fleets that could erase planets without fire, and when peace finally came, they chose to vanish. The last transmission humanity ever sent to the Council was simple: "Do not follow us." The Council, in its arrogance, forgot. Now they remembered. In the years that followed, no one crossed into human space again. The line on the galactic map was redrawn in thicker ink. Pilots whispered prayers when their routes neared it. Explorers refused to go near. Even smugglers, bold and reckless, changed course at the first glimpse of the coordinates. But memory fades again, as it always does. A century later, a new generation of scientists argued that the tales were exaggerations. They claimed the Dominion's fleet was lost to internal failure, not humans. They dismissed the idea of a race that could bend physics itself. The warnings became stories to frighten cadets. The red line became decoration, and once again someone crossed it. This time it was not a warlord, but an expedition of scholars from the Telnari Union. They sought knowledge, not conquest. They entered cautiously, transmitting peaceful greetings in hundreds of languages. No response came. Their ships ventured deeper, mapping systems untouched for millennia. They found something astonishing: massive structures orbiting dead suns, artificial rings of metal spanning entire systems. At the heart of one, they discovered a station the size of a moon. The walls bore writing no translation algorithm could decipher. At its center was a chamber filled with statues perfectly lifelike, all depicting alien species known to history. Every statue's eyes were closed, hands clasped as if in prayer, and at the center stood one statue that was not a statue. When they scanned it, it blinked. The Telnari scientists never returned. Their transmissions, intercepted days later, contained only one clear phrase before ending in static: "They are still here." Panic spread across the Union. The Council called for unity, but fear was stronger than politics. Empires began building new weapons, old rivalries rekindled, all driven by the same thought: if humans still existed, if they were watching, what would they do next? Decades passed in silence. Then one night, across 100 star systems, every communication network lit up at once. Every screen, every console, every display showed the same image, the symbol of the circle and line. The voice that followed was calm, human, and final. "You were warned." The line was for your safety, not ours. Across the galaxy, fleets prepared for battle, but no enemy appeared. Instead, stars began to dim. Entire sectors went dark as if light itself fled. The galactic core pulsed once, brighter than any sun, then went still. When the light faded, thousands of ships were gone. No trace, no wreckage, nothing.